Hello friends, I'm Vinodkumar Ashok Pradhan. Friends, I'm from Shivaji University, Kolhapur. From this year onwards, the syllabus of BA Part 3 Special English is changed. So in this video, I would like to show my students that what are the changes and what is the necessity of this newly launched syllabus for them. So let us have a glance on the syllabus. So friends, this is the syllabus. So you can see here that English poetry choice based credit system is the long form of this CBCS. Discipline specific elective, that means this is the subject selected by the English students. Now this is the syllabus of semester 5. The number of paper will be 8, and again we have semester 6 along with this semester 5 syllabus. So in the semester 5, the paper number will be 8, and in the semester 6, that is final semester, final examination, this paper will be, the number of this paper will be 13. You can see here from June 2020 onwards, this syllabus is launched. Let us see the objectives. Many times students don't know that why they are learning a particular subject. So here we have to first focus on the objectives and the outcomes, that why am I or the student learning this particular course or this particular subject. Now this is English poetry. So why are we learning this poetry? So the objectives for the student will be to make students engaged and curious readers of poetry. Now in this era, means on WhatsApp, many students like poetry. They read, they compose, they post, they share. So accordingly, if they learn how this poetry is composed and what are the elements of poetry, they themselves will be able to compose poetry and share, and in real sense they will understand poetry, rhyme, rhythm, what kind of images are used in a particular poetry, how this poetry gives pleasure to the mind of the reader as well as the author, or you may say the writer or poet. So the first objective why we are going to learn this poetry, that we want to get engaged in it, and then we want to arise curiosity in the minds of the blooming poets, I can say to my students. Then to introduce students to poetry from various cultures and traditions. So we are going to learn poetry from Indian culture and American, African, and then London. So in that way, various cultures we are going to interpret with. We will know what is their tradition and how in different scenario, social conditions, the poets have written or created their poetry. Even some soldiers also have created their poetry while they are alone in their tent at the border. Then to make students understand that poetry gives intellectual, moral, and linguistic pleasures. So while composing poetry, various aspects of language are used, and for that purpose, what kind of linguistic techniques poet has to use in his or her poetry, that we are going to learn and apply in our poetry. Next, we are going to understand that what kind of poetry we are going to handle here. To make students understand that poetry gives intellectual and moral and linguistic pleasures that we studied right now. So composing poetry is not a simple job, but it needs to use our intellect to reach towards our listeners. And for that purpose, what kind of techniques are used, that we are going to learn. And finally, to make students hear and read poems aloud and to memorize lines. So the best example of this is that when we watch television or listen to the radio, at that time we hear some advertisement. In these advertisements, there are some lines of poetry, you can say the songs, very short or small songs. These lines are on tip of our tongue and we can anytime recite them. So this is what we are going to learn, that we have to hear, read the poems in such a manner that we should like. So if you remember our school days, your school days, then you will definitely remember that our teacher used to teach some poetry that we can recite even today. So rain, rain, go away, then Incy Wincy Spider. So these are some poems that we still remember. The reason behind it is that we have learned it by heart and we have liked them because of its rhythm. So in the same way, through this poetry, we are going to understand these various techniques. Then what course outcomes means, after learning this poetry, what changes will occur in the students? So the students will be able to trace the development of poetry in English from the days of Shakespeare to the contemporary India. Then students will be able to appreciate and analyze the poems properly. Next, students will have a fairly comprehensive view of the Western and Eastern poetic tradition, and they will be able to relate it to various literary movements. Students will have an insight into poetry and they will be able to make a lively and interesting reading. So keeping these outcomes in mind, this new syllabus is launched, and we are going to learn some new poetry so that it can create an interest regarding poetry in the minds of the blooming poets, or you can say the students who have interest in writing and composing poetry. So let us try to understand that what we are going to learn from this syllabus. How is our syllabus? So friends, first of all, we have some survey topics, or you can call it as historical topics, that we are going to learn what is mean by Elizabethan poetry, what kind of poetry was created in the period of Queen Elizabeth. So the history behind it, we are going to learn from Elizabethan poetry. Next, we have metaphysical poetry and romantic poetry. In the section second, we will learn about selection from Elizabethan poetry. So three poems will be there which are the product of Elizabethan poetry. First is Edmund Spenser's Sweet Warrior. It is also entitled as sonnet number 57. Then we have Sir Philip Sidney's sonnet to the moon. And finally, how can we forget William Shakespeare? So William Shakespeare's full meaning, a glorious morning. So it is sonnet number 33. Then we have three metaphysical poems. And first is John Donne's The Sun Rising, then Henry Vaughan's The Retreat, and George Herbert's The Caller. And finally, we have four poems from Romantic poetry or Romantic era. William Wordsworth's My Heart Leaps Up, St. Coleridge's The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, then Ozymandias by P.B. Shelley, and finally, When We Two Parted by Lord Byron. Yes, so this is the syllabus of semester 5. And you can see here, this note is bold, made bold for you. 10 marks are there for internal evaluation, and for that purpose students have to give a seminar. So this should be remembered by you. Okay, so let us turn towards the semester 6. The paper number will be 13, and You can see three historical topics once again: Victorian poetry, then modern English poetry, modern Indian English poetry. Yes, so Indian poets are also there who have composed beautiful poems, and we are going to learn them. Next, selection from Victorian poetry. So from Victorian era, there are three poems. Number one, Alfred Lord Tennyson's The Lady of Shalott, a beautiful poem. Robert Browning's My Last Duchess, and Christiana Rossetti's Love Came Down at Christmas. Next, we have modern English poetry. Three poems are there. First, No Second Try by W.B. Yeats, The Hollow Man by T.S. Eliot, and Tonight I Can Write by Pablo Neruda. Then, from modern Indian English poetry, Nizam Musicals, The Professor, Kamala Das, A Hot Noon in Malabar, then A.K. Ramanujan's A River, and finally Jayant Mahapatra's A Kind of Happiness. Once again, in the next semester also, the students have to give a project. So in the fifth semester, there is a seminar, and in the sixth semester, there is a project. So don't forget this. Now, these are the recommended readings for the teachers as well as the students. Now, you can see here that there are some books by renowned authors, and you can get them online as well as in your libraries. So one more thing you have to find here, that 8 modules are there and 15 hours for each. So throughout the year, we have to complete this syllabus within 120 hours. It becomes very important for us to know what type of question paper there will be for us. So this is the pattern of question paper. So the question paper will be for 40 marks, and there will be 4 questions. You can see here that 4 multiple choice questions with 4 alternatives will be there for 4 marks. Again, question number 1B will be answer the following questions in one word, phrase or sentence each. Again, it will be for 4 marks. Then question number A and B to be set on module 2nd, 3rd and 4th. So see here, answer the following questions in about 250 to 300 words. A or B to be set on module 1. Here, question number 2A will be an alternative B. So you have to solve only one question. Okay. So this will be for 10 marks. Then question number 3 is there. Answer the following questions in about 250 to 300 words. Module number 2, 3, 4 will be there. Again, it will be for 10 marks. Here, question number 4, write short notes in about 100 to 150 words each, 3 out of 4. And see, here you can see that each short note is for 4 marks. Yes, so it will be set on module 1 and 2 on module 2, 3 and 4. Yes, so same pattern will be there for your semester 6. Yes, and last but not the least, actually we had to start from here, but no problem. It will be very easy for us to know or keep in our memory that the older title of this paper, poetry, was Understanding Poetry, but the new title is English Poetry. It has simplified for the students to remember for at the time of examination. So many people confuse that when they are asked about the subject name and paper name, they get confused. So subject name will be English and the paper name will be English Poetry. So I hope that you have understood this syllabus, the question paper pattern, and what kind of things we are going to learn in this particular paper. So I wish you all the best and thank you very much.